So I'm here to do another recommendation video. The last recommendation video I posted was actually super popular. People were actually engaging in the comments, so I decided to do another one. But because I am a teacher, I'm going back to school in about 13 days for my fourth year of teaching. I decided I would do some school-based recommendations. I'm gonna break this up into contemporary books that have a school setting, but also fantasy books that have a school setting, because we all love a good fantasy book that has a school setting, and I just want to chat about them. So those are gonna come first. The first series I'm going to chat about in this video is, I don't know, actually I know exactly what happened to my book jacket. It's hanging on my door, but the Keeper of the Lost Cities series by Shannon Messenger is such a good fantasy middle grade series. But you basically follow this girl named Sophie, and she's always been a little bit off. She's always had a couple of things, but she doesn't know she's a telepath. She doesn't know she's an elf. But when she realizes that she's sucked away from our modern world and sent to this fantastical elf world, and that's where she lives and that's where she grows up. And she just sort of gets sucked into all of these conspiracies. This is book 8.5. So this is going to be, I think, a 9 or 10 book series. I've read all 8 books. I'm caught up. I actually just got an audiobook of the first book so I could re-listen before the end of the series is. I would love to reread the series eventually, but it's a great series. I know we're always sort of hunting for a new middle grade series that may take the world by storm, like Percy Jackson. I really am quite fond of this series, and I think it talks a lot about topics that you don't really get in middle grade, but it was great. I really liked it. It's a big cast of characters. Every book sort of focuses on a different set, but Sophie's at the heart of it, and you just love the characters. It does dive into romantic relationships as well as the books go on. Does focus a lot on adoption. The world is so rich. It just keeps unfurling and unfolding and unfolding. It's really, really great. I would definitely recommend them. I actually listened to the last couple, and I really like that experience, but I really like the series and definitely think that you should check it out. Cool one that I want to kind of chat through is Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Elston. I've heard really good things about this book, so many good things. I read it. I really liked it. But you basically follow this girl named Amari, and her brother has gone missing about a year ago, but she gets this invitation to join the school that her brother went to, but little does she know this school is magical, and so is she. And she sort of gets sucked into the school. It does deal with a lot of harder modern world topics. And I think it was really done super well. I mean, it definitely dealt into racism and racism ideas and dealing with all that stuff. There was a lot of twists and turns, especially towards the very end of the story, that I did not see coming. I really liked it. I thought it was a very, very rich world, very, very action-packed, very, very rich, like Keeper of the Lost Cities, but just really, really well crafted. I liked Amari as a main character. There was a lot of mystery and intrigue. There was a school setting in it, which I did like, and I just thought it was a fun read. I did not want to put this book down, and it was super fun, and I'm really excited for the sequel as well. And then the last book I'm going to talk about in this thing is the Morgan Crow series. I still haven't read Hollowplex. This is actually on my TBR for the fall. But this is about a girl who, she's born on a very, very unlucky day, and everything that goes wrong in her family and her town is sort of blamed on her. But on that day, she's believed that she will die. She won't live anymore. She'll be murdered, I suppose. But that doesn't exactly go according to plan, and she's ripped off to this fantasy world where she has a lot of a series of adventures. I really like the first book. I struggled a little bit with the second book, but I've heard that as the books go on, they just keep getting better and better. I really liked Morgan Crow as a character. I thought she was really, really great. The world was super fun. There's a really, really fun mentor-mentee relationship. The setting is fun, and I'm really excited to dive into this one this fall and hopefully be ready for book 4 whenever it comes out. So definitely these 3 series, Amari, Hollowplex, and Keeper of the Lost Cities, are some of my favorites. Another one that I just had to mention is the Percy Jackson world, especially the first couple of books in that series, the primary series. I would say it has a school element to it, which is Camp Half-Blood. It's definitely not the focus of it, but you do see them in those situations, and it is considered a school. I love that series. I always want to give it a shout out. And really, any of the Rick Riordan books, they're not all set in school, but they do have school related elements. I know a couple of them definitely do, like Arusha doesn't really. They really don't have school elements, but they're just very, very fun reads. Very, very super engaging that I really, really like. But we're going to get on to the book that I actually made this video about. It is As If on Cue by Marissa Kandra. This is coming out early September, so I'll probably post this up like the first 2 weeks. And this is her sophomore novel. This has to do with theater and musicals. And if you don't know, or you haven't been following me for a very, very long time, I work in the DOE. I'm a theater teacher. And this book was just like a love letter to my heart and soul. You follow Natalie and Reed, and they have known each other for their whole lives. They really don't get along. They like to prank each other. Reed is a music prodigy that is coached by Natalie's dad, and Natalie likes musical theater and likes theater, but doesn't really see it as being a career path for her because she's a little bit fearful of her career prospects. But there are budget cuts at her high school, and the only program that is safe is Reed's music program because they tend to win and are very, very successful. But Natalie does not think that that's fair, so she sort of she and her friends, they write this musical, which is sort of like a Frozen parody about climate change, but when they start a prank war, it goes in a way that they do not expect, and they're forced to team up to work on a musical that Natalie wrote, and it is a really, really fun ride. I really like this book a lot. I thought it was great. I sometimes struggle with the pranking stuff. I just think it's a little bit mean-spirited. I read a couple of books recently, and the pranking stuff really, really got to me. But this book, I just thought handled it so well. It also dives into why these characters are enemies. And I like that because sometimes when I get enemies to lovers, like, I don't really feel that they're enemies. But there were parts in this book that, like, they jumped back and saw, okay, how did they get to this place? There was also the complicated family relationships. This is also a Jewish-based novel as well, which I really appreciate. I learned a lot about Jewish culture from this as well. I really like this one. I thought the musical elements was super good, and it really focuses on cooperation. And as a theater teacher, if I have a book that I could give a student and say, this is what cooperation looks like, I talk about it all the time in my theater class. It's one of my core components. This really shows how to put up a musical by yourself. And as somebody that was in a school where we put up a musical version of Alice in Wonderland when it doesn't exist, I know how hard it was, and I really liked this book. The romance was super sweet, and it just put a smile on my face. But that was the book. That was the major book I wanted to talk about because it is coming out recently, and I really enjoyed her debut. So this one was a book that I just put a smile on my face. The next couple of books I'm going to chat through all do have a school-related element to them, and then the last books I'm going to chat about in this video are books that are inspired by, like, plays or musicals, because I think that that's just fun. What's Not to Love by Amari, Weberly, and Austin Sigmund Broca is definitely a school-related novel. You basically follow Allison and Ethan, and they are gunning to be valedictorian in their high school, but their principal is sort of over their competitiveness, their rivalry, and forces them to work together to plan a 10-year reunion. And let's just say things don't go according to plan. You do get, is this the book you only get Allison's point of view in this story, and I think I would have liked it a little bit more if you also got Ethan's point of view, but I did like it. I don't think it was like my absolute favorite that they wrote, but the competitiveness in the high school element was really, really fun, and I just like the banter between the characters. I like that they were forced to kind of work together. That's always books that I really like. So if you want a school-based one of this, definitely check this one out. I don't have my physical copy anymore because I loaned it to someone. But also Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon is another book that does have the enemies to lovers trope, but it's set like the last day of high school. So again, you do get a lot of background in that, sort of fleshing out why they're enemies. This book doesn't really flesh it out as much as like As If on Cue does, but it is very, very good, and I would recommend it. Another book that has taken place in school, which, I think we all know about, Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda, but I really liked this book when I read it. I listened to the audiobook. I also saw the movie. It was great. I thought it was a delight. It really just made my heart happy. I love Simon as the main character, and I just think it's great. It's definitely set in school. Basically, Simon is talking to somebody on this app, and their relationship is sort of put out in the atmosphere, and someone's basically threatening to out him to his whole community. And we all know the story, but I really like this book. I really liked all of Becky Albertalli's writing style, but this is the one series that like I would recommend because it is predominantly set in school. And the next book I'm going to talk about is Dare You To by Katie McGarry, which is definitely one of my favorite Katie McGarry books to date. And this is one that is my absolute favorite. But Beth's family is dealing with a lot. Her mom is a drug addict. Her mom is living in an abusive home. So she basically gets taken away and set to live with her, I think it's her uncle. She gets sent to live back with her uncle where she lived when she was younger. And her paths wind up crossing with this young boy named Ryan. And romance ensues for sure. It's a book that really does look at her as a character. It is a dual point of story. It also is just her getting on her feet again and sort of like caring about school, but also about people and like friendship. And it's a really, really good story. Also, there is a lot about Ryan in the story, about him being a baseball player but wanting more out of life than just being a baseball player. And I thought that both characters in the stories did have so much complications. And I love Katie McGarry's writing style. You can really pick up any of her books in this series. They all do have a school element, but this is definitely my favorite and definitely the one that I would recommend. And the next book series I'm just going to chat about briefly is the Defending Taylor series by Amanda Kelly. This is part of like the 100 Oaks series. I read this one relatively recently for my Olympics-a-thon, and it does have a very, very strong school element. All these books do. The first one, Catching Jordan, had a school element. That one focused on football. This one focuses on soccer. They're really, really quick reads. They're very, very romance-heavy, very, very focused on self-discovery. This one, but most of them do take place in a school, and they're very, 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 very quick reads. So this is another one that I would recommend if you're looking for something quick that has like a sports twist to it. But now let's get to the books that I would classify as theater inspired. So long ago. But it is Foolish Hearts by Emma Mills. Here's a photo. All of Emma Mills' books sort of focus on friendship. So this book is a Midsummer Dream retelling, which again, glorious, really, really like it. But the summary, because it's been so long since I read it, when Claudia accidentally eavesdrops on the epic breakup of Paige and Iris, a couple at her school, she finds herself in hot water with a prickly and difficult Iris, thrown together their will in a class production of The Midsummer Night's Dream with the goofiest, cutest boy Claudia has ever known. Iris and Claudia are in for an eye-opening senior year. This book definitely did focus a lot on friendship. I love the elements of the play. It was a very, very strong friendship story. There was also a lot of friendship dynamics in there. There was also family dynamics, but I just really liked it. It was a really, really fun read. I read this when I had the flu, and I read it in like a day. Super quick paced. Definitely to date, probably one of my favorite Emma Mills books that I've ever read. It still holds up. It was in an Owl Crate box so long ago, but I really did like it and just had to share it. I don't know what happened to my physical copy. I think I definitely still have it. I didn't get rid of it because I really, really like that book quite a bit, but it's been so long since I read it, so might be time for a reread. The next author books I'm going to chat about is Emily Weberly, Austin Sigmund, Broca. But it is mostly about their Shakespeare retellings, which is Always Never Yours, and also If I'm Being Honest. So I'll show you guys the photos here. The first one when I was struggling through my first ever show that I put up at IS10, and it just made me smile. I think I gave that one to one of my students as well. But the first book follows this girl. I cannot remember for the life of me remember her name. I'm sorry, I'm bad at names because it's been so long. But she tends to always date a guy before he finds his like happily ever after. She's like the Rosalind in that situation. And she always has a big dream of being a director. But to get into this competitive directing program, she has to have an acting credit on her resume. So she winds up trying out thinking she'll get a small part. She winds up getting cast as Juliet, and then she has a relationship with like a co-writer on this show. It was fun. I really, really like this book. Definitely one of my favorites by them, and probably one of my favorite Romeo and Juliet retellings I've ever read. It was really, really fun, and just like a unique take on that myth. I think it was just super fun and engaging. And I liked how they sort of incorporated all of the Romeo and Juliet elements, and I thought it was really unique and really different. And then the next book they did is If I'm Being Honest, which is a Taming of the Shrew retelling. This one follows a girl named Cammy, and she is determined to get back together with like this guy. And this guy doesn't think she's very, very nice. She is a very, very abrasive sort of person. And she sort of makes it her goal to sort of be nice to people, and especially this guy she's sort of been really, really mean to. Things don't go according to plan, as you can think, and it's just a really, really fun read. You do get to see the characters from Always Never Yours in this story, and it was really, really fun as well. I really, really liked it. It was enjoyable, and it was another take on like a Shakespeare telling that doesn't get a lot of love and attention. I don't think I've ever really read a Taming of the Shrew before, but I really did like it. And then the last book I'm going to talk about in this video, I don't feel like going up in there and get it, but it is Take Me Home Tonight by Morgan Matson. This is sort of loosely inspired by like a theater element because it's set on the weekend of finding out if you're going to get cast in your show, but it really does dive into like the culture of high schools and the art programs, and it can always be a little bit dark. Honestly, it can. I remember my high school was believed to have like a dark underbelly, but it was super fun. I really like Morgan Matson's writing style, and I just wanted to shout it out at the tail end of this video. But let me know in the comments what are some other recommendation videos that you would like to see me do. I will happily do them, and I'll talk to you guys soon for my next video. Bye, friends.